But Barnett out for the season. Our captain, our king. Man, we've grown to love and respect. And I don't want it to make it sound like it's the end of the road. It definitely isn't. But
Mm.
it was such a massive, massive injury that it needs to be talked about and the impacts of it. But Ash, what did you make of it when you heard the news, and what did you think of what we've lost with Barnett and how kind of how we're starting to move ahead? What do you make of it?
Yeah, sad, bro. Like, we all know, like, as soon as Mitch Barnett put on a Warriors jersey, right? He's become an elite, middle forward or forward in general in his competition, right? And I feel like he was only just starting to really get his proper props that he kind of deserved. Like I felt like last year he was out and out our best player that we had last year. Consistency. There was games without him where we just fell completely off the pace. He won an Origin jersey last year. He won an Australian jersey last year. Coming into this series, he was a certainty to get selected for the New South Wales Blues, which is so mental from a guy from what we saw in the Newcastle Knights, where I feel like a couple of Warriors fans obviously would have looked at that signing of Mitch Barnett and gone, could he be the guy? He obviously
Yeah,
proved now he's our captain. He's our spiritual leader in the middle with Fisher Harris. And I think, like, when you look at other sides in the competition, you start to really realize, like, your team kind of emulates its best players, right? And like we've got CNK, we got Fisher Harris, we got Mitch Barnett, and what do they all have in common? They're all hard workers, right? And the way we're
yeah,
winning our games this year is all based down to hard work and determination and grit. And I think that's a really sad thing that we do get to lose in Mitch Barnett. But what he's done also with his leadership is allow the ability for all our young juniors and that to step into that role and do a great job, like the Tennis Dallas Smiths, the Lek Alasimas, Dimitri Vaimwangas, they've all just taken a level of, gritty determination, defense intensity that we love to see. And he's going to be sorely, sorely missed. But it's also an opportunity for these kids to be like, hey, Barney, like everything you're showing me, I'm going to put it to the test and,
yeah.
prove, make you happy for how we perform out there. So very sad, very, very sad. But I'm sure that, now everyone can see the props. He's well deserving all the props he's getting right now. Blues jerseys, Australian jerseys. I think he hurts more than just the New Zealand Warriors right now.
Just to kind of go back on his history a little bit. I've spoken to someone, a guy I met last week actually on a stream for the Origin watch along. He was a Newcastle fan, and even he was surprised about Barney's turnaround as kind of a hot head, and no one could really have predicted this. Do you think this is an example of actually someone coming to New Zealand with the right attitude, right mindset, getting away from distractions or mates in Aussie, whatever it may be, situations, and saying, "Look, I've got a clean slate here. I can really prove something to myself and my family." And do you think that's also another a positive example of we've had guys come be mercenaries, get their money and leave, but actually
Yeah.
Barney's an example of like takes his game to another level, that type of thing. No.
Yeah, and I feel like it's a more times than not story now in the last 3 years that we're actually getting players that are coming over here for the right reasons. Like, for sure, we've definitely still had the players that have come for their money and end up leaving us with a massive gaping hole. But I feel like you can add Aaron Clark to this list now. Obviously, he's a Kiwi that's gone to Gold Coast, coming back home, all that sort of stuff. But these sort of guys, it just shows such a great system that we are building right now. Like, I think the Warriors of in the past, when we brought up, the classic name that you bring up is like a Ryan Hoffman type, right? You bring those boys over, and he just didn't hit the same heights as what we expected. A great comment there, like Jackson Ford, like we brought him from the Dragons. He
Yeah.
was unplayed, unwanted at the Dragons, and we've created him into a very good prop forward at the moment, or a good forward in general as well. So it just shows our system is working in all the right ways, and it also does show on Mitch Barnett's end that he kind of this is his moment to change the whole view set of Mitch Barnett and change his career. And I think it's the two things have worked coexisted and created the Mitch Barnett we see today, which everyone should be proud of because he's done an amazing job.
Yeah, and shout out to Mackie. Great point, man. For Barnett, Metcalf, Healy to list that has shown Aussie players that there's real opportunity. Shout out Egan, massive. Egan's
Egan
another
as
one
well.
who's been here through the crap years too, with Brown and struggled as well.
Agreed.
So I've got to do a massive shout out to the recruitment sector for investing in these guys. And yeah, you're not going to hit everyone perfectly. We know that situations change, but for the majority, a lot of our guys come over and really do a good job.
100%. Even like, looking at like now, Kurt Capewell, he's in really good form for us at the moment. Like he hasn't put a foot wrong this year for me. Start of the year, it was a little bit like, yeah, maybe he's not really stepping into his role that we expected when he first get in. But I think after probably about the third or fourth game, he's taken his game to a whole new level. Whether that's just clear up of minor injuries that he's had been carrying into games, I'm not too sure. But my best mate, Brody, obviously watches a bit of our footy, but watches all the footy around. And he's like, bro, this is better Kurt Capewell than the Broncos had, when they had him.
Right.
So, it's showing that he's stepping up in his levels as well. So again, it just comes from, as you said before, these boys probably saying this is their last sort of opportunity to change their careers in some sort of aspect, and also a very good system that allows them to play their best type of football. And it's just a perfect monster that's creating right now that these boys are playing incredible footy.
And like I know this is a big thing, but to bring a family over to New Zealand is difficult, especially Australian culture is decent, not massively, but a little bit different to New Zealand culture as well.
100%.
So for those guys to do that, and you got to shout out the wives too. They commit to this too. Putting their
Yeah.
kids through school and stuff. So it's nice when the club get a great couple, a great family. Webby's a great example too. Bring the family over from Aussie, settle in, here for a job, do work professionally, are great on the field and off the field. Especially like you say, Barney finally got his props, man, with Origin, and Kangaroos, because Kangaroos is hard to break into. Like that's if you get at the Kangaroos level, that's like you're actually pinnacle of your position, like in terms of levels. So.
And like, to show how big of a deficit this injury is to just rugby league in general, right? You got the New Zealand Warriors playing incredible footy. Like, hopefully we recover from this and the boys can step up, and next man up mentality for sure. New South Wales Blues lose a major key piece they had in the last game that, obviously he's not Payne Haas, but he does all the little things that people probably don't fully recognise to start off with, and a lot of clean up work. He helps Payne Haas become Payne Haas in Origin. And then you look at Australia, if Payne Haas was to pledge for Samoa, and if Tino Fa'asul Malaawi was pledged to Samoa, players like Mitch Barnett step up in that starting front row role. And it's like, it's not Payne Haas, but it does help a tad for Aussie, forward pack, to step up to the level as well, right? So this is what impacts the whole game. It's not just the Warriors in general. So it is sad to see him go down with injury, but, knowing Mitch Barnett as a character, just seeing what he's become in the Warriors, he's going to work hard. He's going to come back twice as strong, and he's going to prove to everyone that he'll be back ready to go, and hopefully be pushing us to a final series next year. However the ACL recovery goes.
Yeah, it's and let's get on to just a side topic of that, but what to do moving forward in terms of who replaces him and how do you approach this? Is it is Barney worth three forwards technically, and you get three guys to kind of do his one job, or is there one for one like replacement that you get away with to do that role while maintaining everyone else's role? My only fear with losing Barney is the added pressure, and we've seen Webby just being a devil's advocate at times. Not saying he's going to do that, but push the limits on some of the other players to play a little bit longer minutes, stretch them out a bit. But also the counter attack to that is that he has brought a lot of the youth through now, and Dimitri and Nick and the like are starting to really stretch their legs a little bit and get a few more Ks under them. What do you think the steps are? What is the right move moving forward? And how do we kind of set this up in a way that we can manage this? Because I'm going to just quickly point this out. I don't think we've had an ACL tear, knock on wood, in the last 2 to 3 years that I can think of. And I think most of the injuries have been either long term, 2 to 3 months, but nothing of this term. And maybe Barney's one when he had the neck cramp was maybe injury. The only other long term one out in the forward pack. So it's a big one. It's a long term one. Oh, probably Tohu. Yeah, Tohu was probably yeah. But from this point of the season, it's well, anyway. Ash, what do you make of that?
Yeah, it's I think that obviously it's going to be a massive loss, and as you said, he is like very much like three different positions you got to kind of cover for, because he's a guy that can cover the edge, can cover that 13 role, and is one of the better prop forwards in the competition right now. So we're going to look for some players that can step up in those areas. And like number one, like Aaron Clark's doing his job in 13. So in that area, I just see the output of Aaron Clark and James Fisher-Harris probably improving a little bit. Fisher-Harris obviously being brought to the club as in that leadership role, and I'm sure he's going to take that to a new level now that his side piece isn't there right now. So I also think that, we got a lot of other options because this squad is so versatile, right? We see the team list today. Kurt Capewell's in the centers, where there's some movements going on there. But, if some boys are able to cover those other positions, you got a chance to push Maratza Niakure into that front row position and have Jackson Ford coming off the bench and have a very similar rotation between those two. Like Jackson Ford's had incredible games for pretty much this whole season. I think this has probably been one of his better, that 2023 season was incredible. This has been just as good in the middle, right? So I think he can cover a lot of the work rate for the middle, right? If we get the rotation right, Maratza Niakure will be a bit more of the punch type of play. And the last one is you got Dimitri Vaimonga and Tennis Dale Smith that may get a little bit more extended minutes through this period here, to where, those boys can get a good rotation if they were to keep Maratza Niakure, Capewell on the edges, and Leka coming off the bench as more impacts. Those boys can probably do a little bit more of a middle interchange there. So there's a lot of other options we can go with. I prefer more of the Maratza Niakure starting front row with Fisher-Harris, bring Jackson Ford off the bench to play that middle role to the middle of the game with Dimitri Vaimonga. And then we kind of work around that with maybe a Tennis Dale Smith or a Laban, however we work that out, and then put those boys back onto the end of the game. So that's the way I prefer us deal with it. It's not Mitch Barnett 100%. We don't have another Mitch Barnett, and I don't think many other teams have another Mitch Barnett in their roster, and our depth is good enough to cover to a point, right? And I think there's not a lot of other sides that have a Jackson Ford that can cover these positions, or a Maratza Niakure that can move from an edge to a middle like this, or these young kids that are coming through that are playing incredible footy at the moment. So we're very, very blessed to have good depth at the moment in certain positions, and this is actually one of those positions that we have a decent amount of depth in. Tom Ale is barely getting a bait in the side at the moment. He's coming back off injury. Bunty Afoa is another guy that could definitely fill in a role there too. So we have guys there galore.
Yeah, I'm of the same mindset as you. Build a partnership. It's like a cricket partnership, right? You build a combo that builds, that grows into itself. When I remind me of Fish and Leota, you just add them together, it's so different to them kind of individually. Like
Agreed.
they've built this kind of mentality, siege mentality, that they both kind of got in people's faces, and they both backed each other. And in a way, Barney and Fish were like that too. So I think you kind of blood in someone or get someone that hits that kind of that spark. I think Marata could be that guy for sure. I agree
100%.
totally with Ford being in that long minutes role 25 in the first half, and then carry over into that last, towards the 30, 25 in the second half. I think he's a long minutes forward, and you play him like that. So I agree, bro. There's options around, which is and I think I think it's really managing the rotation. Vaimonga, this is probably a really good opportunity for him to be like a solid rotation guy with
Agreed.
good 30 to 40 minutes. I think he got up to 30 or maybe 35 on the weekend. And you saw him start to open up. Hey, you seen him start to really stretch out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's
The
where
offloads.
Just he got a little bit hungry. He got a little bit hungry on that one offload. He's just feeling himself a little bit. They're young people.
The rush of blood.
Yeah, rush of blood. Yeah, just excitement. How it is. But yeah, I definitely think he could hold down a spot. Which again, there's massive opportunities for people to carry this through to the next phase. So,
agreed.
A lot to think about. But a lot of good chat. People in the chat too. I think you agree. There's no need to go do a panic mid-year buy of anything like that. Nah, we got.
No, the only way to make a move like that is and even then, it probably wouldn't make sense in the long term. But hey, Payne Haas, you're not happy at the Broncos? No, we know the Warriors were your first team, brother. But nah, we don't need anything like that at the moment, especially, you know, when Mitch Barnett comes back fit and healthy next year. We don't want to have another prop forward to really worry about rotations when we got these young kids stepping up in this level as well. So, as you said before, like Dimitrik's doing some great things in the middle. It's not just his attacking game and he's offloading as well. Like defensively, he's been unreal for us. Like over the weekend, 17 tackles, no miss from memory. Very, very solid member in the middle and chops blokes. So Tanner is an incredible defender there too. Really good side-to-side movement in the middle. Like these boys can fill a role. As I said before, not Mitch Barnett for sure, but these guys fill enough of a role to end up covering that. And we've got players like James Fisher-Harris and Aaron Clark that can take another level, I believe anyway. You know, we've seen Aaron Clark hit another level and Fisher-Harris for sure. So I'm sure we'll be okay there.
We'll be okay there. And shout out to the bro, Warriors Fan TV. Much love, brother. Hope you've been well, my man. And shout out to everyone at Warriors Fan TV. Doing some really good stuff. Real Tans. Yeah, man. Big up everyone at Warriors Fan TV.
Let's go.
Okay, man.